Okay, let's start our hat. I have the working yarn in my left hand. I'm going to wrap and make a circle. I'm going to take and trade it into my right hand. I'm going to get my working yarn ready. I'm going to trade it back to my left hand, and you can see I just have that loop. I'm going to use the hook, insert the hook in the circle, yarn over, pull up a loop, and I'm holding the working yarn over my left finger. Down here I'm holding the loop and the tail with my thumb. Now I'm going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And that counts as my first double crochet. Now I'm going to do 11 more double crochets. So I have 1. So we're going to have a total of 12. So yarn over, pull up a loop, pull through 2, pull through 2. Yarn over, insert the hook into the circle, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2. And see, I have my chain and I have 2 doubles. My tail is hanging off to the side, and I'm crocheting over the tail as well as the chain or the loop or the circle. Yarn over, insert, pull up a loop, pull through 2, pull through 2. Get my yarn here. Okay, yarn over, insert it into the circle, pull up a loop, pull through 2, pull through 2. Now, what you can do is you can take your tail and give it a pull, and you should be able to see that the circle closes. Now, we don't want to close it all the way because we still have stitches to do. So we have the first chain 3 counts as a stitch, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have 7 more to do. So let's go ahead and do those. And just keep going into the circle. My hands are a little sweaty. But we're just going to keep going here. And we're going to pull our tail a little bit, and you'll see the circle come in. Okay. My yarn is a little weird here, so. Okay. Yarn over. Pull through 2. Pull through 2. Yarn over, pull through 2, and let's see how many we got. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I got to do 2 more. And if you need to pull your circle in, just pull that tail a little bit. But we don't want to go crazy, so we're going to put in a total of 12 double crochets. Okay, so there is 12 double crochets. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to pull this tail just a little because we want these 2 to come in. We're going to pull this up or cinch it up, and then we're going to sew it in later. But the important thing is we got to figure out where we're going to join our circle. So we've got 1, 2, and 3. And if you take a look at your stitches, this is your first double crochet, and this is the chain. We don't want to go into this first double crochet. We want to go in this little tiny hole in the top of the chain. Now what you can do, and I recommend it to my newbie crocheters, is when you make that chain, you can put a stitch marker there, because my new crochet girls, they tend to chain too tightly. So if you couldn't get your hook into the top of that chain 3, because see, we have to have 2 loops on the top, because if we had 1, it would just stretch it out as shape. If you can't get it in there, you can use a needle, you can use a pair of scissors to prise it open, and then pull it through, and then pull through. So there's no yarn over here when you do a slip stitch. Okay, so that was row 1. And I gotta add a fan here for my little hot flush. Okay, now if you wanted to, you could pull this circle in a little more, but we're just gonna wait. It's okay that we have a circle there. Now, that is row 1. We're gonna go into row 2, and we're going to be putting 2 double crochets into each stitch. So that means at the end of row 2, we will have 24 stitches. Now the reason I wanted you to learn the hat first is because you'll be doing double crochets, you'll be doing chains, and you'll be doing slip stitches and the magic circle, because we're going to be using all of those techniques in our next newbie lesson in the series, which is making a granny square. You don't have to make a whole bunch of granny squares. You could make one giant one to make a blanket, a shawl, or anything else that you would like. Okay, so we're ready for row 2. Now, we're going to chain up 3. So we go 1, 2, and 3. So we want to put 2 double crochets in each stitch, but we don't want to forget this first space. So we have 1 double crochet. We're going to go right into that hole that you can see right there, and you'll have 2 loops. Yarn over, pull up a loop, and pull through 2, pull through 2. Okay. Now, right next door, you can hardly see it. See how the rest of these stitches kind of set up good together? Well, this one is kind of down here, and then there's a piece at the top. We have to grab both of those so that we can get the next stitch. So you take your hook and you go under this first little loop and come out behind that back loop. Then you pull up a loop, okay, and that's how you see that stitch. Now I made a mistake because I didn't yarn over first, so I have to go back out. So yarn over, and you want to get this lower loop and the upper loop. So we're going to go under that lower loop and come out where that upper loop is. And this is the only stitch in this row that is kind of like that, but we don't want to miss it. So now we need to do a second double crochet in there. So now we have 4 stitches. Okay, so now we're ready for the next loop. See, it's right there, and you can see the hole. Okay, yarn over, go right in that hole. You have the V is on the top of your hook. Yarn over, pull up a loop, pull through 2, pull through 2. Now we're going to yarn over, pull up a loop, pull through 2, pull through 2. So now we have 6 stitches. And you can see the next hole there. It's got that little V. So we yarn over, we go under the V with 2 loops on our hook. There we go. Yarn over, back into the same one. Okay. Yarn over. Another one in that same stitch. Okay. We're going to go in here. Pull up a loop. Got another one we need in that hole. Okay, I'm going to pause the video and you guys keep going. Okay, so now I'm down to my last stitch. Now you see this other second loop. See, there's one hole and then there's another hole. That is the slip stitch from the previous round. So we will not be going there. But if you get confused, the best way is to count. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to do 2 doubles in this stitch. And then we're going to count. And our pattern will tell us the number of stitches that we should have for this row. And it says 24. Okay? So let's count before we slip stitch. The chain 3 counts as a stitch. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24. So that means this is not a stitch. Now, we come over here and we look at what we have. We have our chain 3. So here is the first completed double crochet. So we're not going in that loop. We're going into this loop here, which is the top of our chain 3. Now this is where you would insert it, and you want to make sure that you get 2 loops. You don't yarn over, you just insert your hook, pull up a loop, and pull it through the second stitch. Okay, now see how our hat is? It's laying very flat and neat. We're going to go on to row 3. Now if you're having trouble getting into that top of the chain 3, what you would do is you would go ahead and do your chain 3 for row 3, and you could take a stitch marker and put it right in the top of this chain so that the stitch would not close up, and you would know where you're going to put your slip stitch to close the round. So we're going to do a double crochet in the same stitch, and then we're going to do a double crochet in the next stitch. So this row calls for 2, then 1. So here we have our 2, then 1. In this next stitch, we're going to do 2, and then 1, 2, and then 1, and proceed around. And this is another increase row. At the end of this increase row, I think we'll have 32. I don't have my pattern, but we'll count them. So we have 3 stitches, and then we're going to go 2 doubles in the next stitch. Like I said, my yarn's all weird. It's not coming off the skein good. So we've got 2, and now we're going to do 1 in the next one. And 2 in the next one. Okay, so I'm going to do another one. And then 1 in the next one. Okay, so we're going to do 2 and 1, 2 and 1 the rest of the way. And I'm going to meet you. Okay, so what we're going to do is we should have 36 stitches. Okay, so count your stitches and make sure you have 36 stitches. So we had 12, 24, 36. So the next row, are we going to have 48? We'll find out. Okay, so what we have to do is we have to slip stitch this row closed in the top of the chain 3. So you stick your hook in the top of that chain 3 and make sure you get 2 loops. Yarn over, pull through 2. That was my husband burping. He does that every time I make a video. Okay, now we're going to start row 4. Row 4 is chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Then we're going to yarn over, insert the hook, pull up a loop, and pull through 2, pull through 2. And that was all in that first space. Now what we're going to do is we're going to be doing 2 double crochets. So we're going to go 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1. Okay, so there's my 2. And remember, this first stitch is always a little wonky. So we grab the lower loop and the upper loop there, and we make a double crochet, and then in the next one we double crochet, and the next one we're going to do 2. So we have 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1. Okay, I'll meet you back. Okay, so we have 48 stitches, and we're going to continue with another increase round. So let's join this. So we're going to go into the top of the chain 3. With our slip stitch. Now, our next increase row, we're going to do chain 3, and we're going to double crochet into the same space. So we have 2, and then in this row we're going to do 3 double crochets. So you have 2 and then 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1. So a double crochet, and this is that first stitch where we have to try to grab it. And then another, and another. Okay, so in this stitch we're going to do 2 and then 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1. And I'll meet you back around. Okay, I'm back to my last 3 stitches. So I have 2 doubles in this one, And we're going to do the last 3 double crochets, and you should have 60 stitches for this row. And if you don't, just go ahead and pause the video and make sure. So now I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch to finish this row. And as you can see, I'm going to move the camera back, or move this out slightly, and then that is our hat so far. Now I'm going to measure this, and I like it to be 5 to 6 inches. And I'm going to bring in my assistant, Sally, here. And we're going to put it on her head. So I'm pulling that out a little bit. And I'm going to tilt the camera. Okay, hang on. So there's Sally in her hat. And as you can see, it's starting to come down in the front and the back. So I think that what we can do is we can either do another row, or we can start decreasing. So I think I'm going to do one more row and see how it goes. So on this last row, we would chain 3. We're going to go right in that same stitch again. And this time we're going to do 4 double crochets. One, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so we have 2 and then 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to do 2 in the next one, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. And when we get done, we're going to have 72 stitches. So we'll do that, and I'll meet you back. Okay, so now I have 72 stitches. I haven't joined my row yet, but let's try it on Sally here and see how she's doing. Okay, I'm going to move the camera. Now see, there's Sally, and you can see the hat is coming down in the front and the back. This hat with 72 stitches is going to be considered a large, okay? So I have 72 stitches. So I'm going to go ahead and join this here with a slip stitch in the top of the chain 3. Now what we're going to do is we're going to chain 3, and that's going to count as our first stitch. We're going to do a double crochet in every stitch around. We will have 72 stitches in every round. And after a couple rounds, we're going to try it on Sally again and see how it's fitting. This measures 7.5 inches. Now, if you were going to do a small hat, I think it would be 5 inches. And then a medium would possibly be a 6. And then we're doing a large to extra large. I like to do so that the band of the hat, when we get finished, measures 20 to 22 inches. And that's for an adult. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to chain 3, double crochet around. We would have 72 stitches and then join. Now, some of my newbie crocheters, they didn't join. They just kept going around and around. Well, what ends up happening is they're not practicing their join for one thing, their slip stitch and their join. And then when they get done, they have to do a decrease to round out the hat. So what I would like you to do for the next rows is to chain 3, double crochet 70, this counts as 1, and you have 72 stitches, join with the slip stitch, chain 3, and so on. Our goal is for our hat to measure for an adult, when we fold it in half, to measure 7 inches. Then what we're going to do is we're going to add a brim that will equal approximately an inch, and that will finish our hat. But we're going to try it on, Sally, before we go the complete 7 inches, because we might have to come back and eliminate one of our increase rows. So that's what we're going to do. Hopefully I'm making myself clear. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video and do some rows and keep trying it on Sally and see how it goes. Okay guys, here's how Sally's coming out so far. I'm going to give her a little turn. And this was my hat. That's my husband back there if you see him. This is with 72 stitches. And I've done some rows here to make sure that the hat fits Sally. And I'm very happy. Now, we're going to take and measure it. Okay, so I took the hat off of Sally. And so we're going to measure it to see how long, because we want 7 inches before we start doing. So I've got 5.5 inches. So we want to do 7 inches before we do the brim. And we can kind of measure here. Let's see how wide our hat is. So see, if I put it over here and I measure it, look, I'm about 10 and a half inches. So that makes my hat around 20 to 22 inches around. And that's great because that's what I recommend for an adult. So I hope you guys are happy with how yours is coming out. And I'm going to join you back when it's time to do the brim. But before we do that, let's go ahead and sew in our tail that's in the crown. So I've got my needle here, and I'm threading my needle, and there's our center where we had our magic circle, and I'm bringing it in just a little, and then I'm going to go around the circle. Now I'm not going very deep, I'm just doing the top threads. As you can see, I'm taking it slow, so I'm not going all the way through the hat. Give it a pull. I give it a turn, and I come up a few more strands, but again, I'm only doing this side of the strand. And I'm going to turn it again, and then I'm going to go up here. Okay, now if you would like, you can come back just a little. So you would skip the first one there and then go back down just through the top threads, see? And then just give it a pull. And then I don't have my scissors here. Of course, That would be too easy. Then I pull it up and I give it a clip. I don't go too close, but I just give it a clip. Okay? And that's going to be our hat, our adult size hat. So I'm going to continue a couple more rows, and then I'll be back to show you how to do the brim. Okay, we're back. Look at Sally with her hat on. I'm going to turn Sally just a little. And there's Sally. So I completed my hat so that it measures 7 inches. And there is the crown of it. And so we're going to do another 2 rows for the brim. And we're going to do front post double crochet and then a regular double crochet, and we're going to rotate that for 1 or 2 rows. We'll see what it looks like. And that's Sally's hat so far. Now I forgot to mention that you can get yourself one of these styrofoam heads at any beauty supply store. And I think you could probably get them for under $5, but I really like having mine because sometimes you think a pattern's going perfect and it just doesn't fit the person, you know, that you're intending. So I'm going to go ahead now and pause the video and get set up to show you how to start your brim. Okay, here we go. We're going to do our chain 3 as normal, and that's going to count as the first double crochet. So we have 1, 2, and 3. Now we're going to do a front post double crochet. So you yarn over, and this next stitch we're going to go in between the first and the second and come out on the other side. I'll show you that again. So normally we would just go ahead and double crochet in this top loop, but what we're going to do is we're going to go around this next stitch. So you insert your hook between those stitches and go straight across the back. Okay, so I yarned over first, went between, and went straight across. Now I'm going to yarn over again and come back the same way. And you can see I've got a loop underneath this stitch. So now we're going to do a double crochet. Let's get some yarn out here. Okay, so the next stitch is just a normal double crochet. So that means we're going to be going in this loop up here like we normally would. And if you pull this down, you can see the regular double crochet or the loop that you would normally go in. So now we're going to go next door and do a regular double crochet, and that's the double crochet for this stitch. We're going to yarn over, we're going to insert between the 2, go straight across behind the stitch and come out on the other side, yarn over, go back out the same way, and finish your double crochet. In the next loop, which is right there, we're going to go in and double crochet. In this one, we're going to do a front post. Yarn over, go between, go straight across the back and come out on the other side, yarn over, go back, and finish your double crochet. And if you take a look at what you have the first one here is kind of back, this one is front, this one is back, this one is front, this one is back, this one is front. So that's what we're going to be doing the rest of the way around. So this one was a front, so we're going to be going into this next loop and do a regular double crochet. And I'll meet you back when I'm at the end of this row. Okay, I finished going all the way around my hat, and in this case I ended up with a front post double crochet that I'm going to join to the chain 3. Now if you were making a hat and you didn't come out like you should, you know, with one back and one front, it's just fine because it's going to be at the back of the head, but in this case we lucked out. Now I'm going to pause the video and put it on Sally. Okay, you can see the 1 by 1 rib. Now if you wanted to make it 2 by 2, you would do 2 double crochets and then 2 front post double crochets. Now in the case of Sally, I think I'm just going to finish weaving my ends, and if you wanted 2 rows of your brim, you could remove 1 row of your just double crochets so that the hat wouldn't be too long. Okay, so now I want to talk about some things if your hat comes out too big. If your hat comes out too big, you can go back to the last increase row, and that was where we did 2 double crochets and then 4 double crochets, 2, 4, 2, 4. If you take that row out and then start doing all double crochets, it would bring your hat in a little more and it wouldn't appear. Okay, I ran out of space on my tablet, so I wanted to come back and work on the video. I'm using my cell phone. Now, I decided that this hat is too large. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be taking it apart and eliminating one of my increase rows, because I like the hat to be 20 inches, which would be 10 and 10 is 20. And so this hat is now 22. So I'm going to take it back some, and then we'll bring it back. We'll be able to do 2 rows of the ribbing, and it'll fit Sally much better. Check you out later. Okay guys, I got my hat done, and you can see I did 2 rows of the double crochet, front post double crochet. So I determined that my hat at 72 stitches was too large for Sally. Okay, so I went back, I ripped it, and that's where they come up with frogging it. I ripped it back to 60 stitches instead of having 72 stitches. So if you have someone you're making a hat for that has a larger head, and you would measure it right over their ears and around, and with 72 stitches it measured 22 inches, and I showed that in right before this. So now I ripped it back or frogged it back to 60 stitches, and I did additional rows till I was 7 inches. And then I did 2 rows of the front post double crochet brim. Okay, so now my hat measures, when I fold it in half, I wanted to measure 8 inches. Okay, so let's see. Now in this case, it's measuring 7 almost 8 inches. Okay, that's what I like. And I'm going to lay it down and measure it across. And it measures 10 inches, which gives you a 20-inch measurement around. Okay. And so let's just see what mine is. Probably that 24 would have fit me. Yeah, see, 24. That larger at 72 would have fit my head. Okay. But I don't generally make hats to fit me, and I don't generally try to force this on my head. So this is how you would make a double crochet beanie or hat. And I showed you how to make it fit any size and how to decrease it if it turns out too big. Because for some people you might need it larger, and for some people you might need it smaller. So what I did, I got a thing here, is I measured at 60 stitches, I had 6 inches for my crown. And if I was going to do a baby hat, I might have the crown measure 5 inches or 4 inches. It depends on your yarn. I used a number 4 Impeccable from Michaels with an eye hook. And you can see, you can make all kinds of these hats or beanies for Christmas. And then you go ahead and you clip your yarn, pull it through, and weave in the end. So that is the first project in our Newbie crochet series. The next project is going to be the granny square. You're going to be incorporating these stitches. You're going to be doing the magic ring or the magic circle for the center of the granny square. You're going to be doing double crochets. You're going to be chaining, and you're going to be doing slip stitches. I'm also going to show you how to change colors and how to turn your granny square into a blanket, or how to make multiple granny squares like we did for our family and friends granny square blanket, where we had everyone that crochets make a square 7 inches by 7 inches, and I'll be talking more about that in the next video. So I hope you like this series, Newbie Crochet, and I look forward to making new tutorials down the road. Like it, tell your friends so that they can move on in their crochet life. Bye!